Wow, that was close.
I was trying so hard to prepare myself for today's show, but I forgot to prepare a joke. So as I was frantically looking for a joke, I found one, but you beat me to it, Adam. I think yours was a lot funnier.
Alex.
Would you like to hear mine?
Why not?
Do we have a choice?
Yeah.
Why did the egg hide?
Why did the egg hide?
Because it was a little chicken.
Badum.
I like the car skidding.
I like a little chicken. Now I'm imagining a car skidding into a crowd of little chickens.
Oh, no, that's...
Oh, don't do that. We'll get letters.
All right, I need to rein this in a little bit. Good morning, good afternoon, and good day from wherever you are. Welcome to another edition of the Digital Download, which is
the longest running
business talk show on LinkedIn Live, now globally syndicated.
Did you say weekly?
Did I? I thought I did.
You did.
I don't think so.
Well,
you got it wrong, Rob.
I've got it wrong.
What's more important?
Did you say globally syndicated, Rob?
What's that, Tim?
Did you say it's globally syndicated?
Yes, we are going to be globally syndicated. What
does that mean?
That means that not only are we broadcasting on LinkedIn Live right now, but we will be part of internet radio. Stay tuned for further details sometime next month, which is next week. Today, we're going to talk about making better business decisions, which is kind of timely right now. I'm questioning the decisions that I made getting here today. We're going to have a special guest, Jen McFarland, to help guide us. Jen's unique perspective emphasizes the essence of proactive questioning. Whether you're overseeing multi-million-dollar venues or deciding on the best approach to paint a house, asking the right questions ahead of time can mean the difference between success and failure. But before we bring Jen on, let's go around the set and introduce everyone. While we're doing that, why don't you in the audience reach out and ping a friend? Invite them along. We believe that the digital download is best when we have the audience participating. So it's highly encouraged. Go ahead, ping them. Adam, will you kick us off, please?
Hi, Rob. I'm Adam Gray. I'm co-founder of DLA Ignite, and I'm always thrilled to come on these shows because not only are they entertaining and fun, well, for me, not necessarily for the audience, not only are they entertaining and fun, I always seem to learn a huge amount. So thank you.
Thank you. Tim.
Hello, I'm Tim Hughes. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite and famous for writing the book Social Selling Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. And I'm just in the process of pinging a friend on social media.
There we go.
I can't see Andrew in the comments, so I thought I'd ping him.
Where are you, Andrew?
And we can wave any comments.
Yeah, that's right. Tracy, welcome.
Hey, everyone. I'm glad to be back. Tracy Borson, owner at TLP Coaching and Events, where we care about authentic marketing and none of the other crap that marketing wants to try and sell you. You guys like that one today? I'm trying on.
Nice.
Yes. And yeah, I'm just glad to be back. It is like -7 degrees in Calgary today, so I'm wearing my sweater.
And we're glad to have you back.
We are.
Guys.
We've missed your. We've missed you.
You've missed my proactive questioning.
Yeah,
Rob is speaking directly to me in that.
Yeah.
and your happy, smiley disposition as well.
Oh, and my pink headphones.
Yeah.
Your pink headphones.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy. Welcome.
You sound a little husky though today, Tracy. Is that a cold or?
Okay, so fun fact, everyone. On October the 1st, it might have been September 30th, I'm not sure. I lost my voice when I was in New York for work, and it is October 27th, and it hasn't quite recovered. My doctor says everything looks fine, but for now, I bring the husky voice.
Did you lose your voice because you laughed so much when you met up with Lenwood? That's the question.
Actually, I had lost my voice mostly by the time I met up with Lenwood, but this is what happens when you go to New York and your friends are in rock cover bands and you spend a whole night singing songs, and then you go to Broadway the next day and it's Back to the Future, the musical. So then you have to sing all the Huey Lewis songs, and then your voice is just gone.
Wow.
This is my life, folks.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes.
So hello everyone. I'm Alex Abbott, founder of Sapiro, and trying to be famous for the Conversation Creation Operating System. And I'm a proud DLA Ignite partner. Have we said that yet today?
Oh,
No,
yeah, me
we
too.
have not.
I forgot about that.
Oh, we're forgetting a lot of things today. Thank you, Alex. And myself, I am Rob Durant, founder of Flywheel Results. We help startups scale, and I too am a proud DLA Ignite partner. All right, so thank you all. As I said, this week on the Digital Download, we're going to speak with Jen McFarland, turnaround expert and CEO of Women Conquer Business. The first time we met, Jen shared with me that she usually walks into disaster. In fact, she said that's pretty fun for her. So this is an appropriate place for her to be.
You're walking right into disaster,
Yeah.
Jen. Welcome.
That the Digital Download is her next stop. Jen, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. How's everyone
Morning,
today?
Jen.
Good morning.
Boy, I'm in the right place. Everybody here likes to laugh, so it's gonna be fun for me.
Jim, why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit more about you and how you got here?
I was trying to think of something pithy to say about how I got here, but it's, I walked across the hall
At
from my
6 in the
bedroom.
morning?
I don't know, it's 6 in the morning. So I don't know. My name is Jen McFarland. My company is called Women Conquer Business, and I help service-based businesses with confidence boosting, ethical marketing strategies so they don't feel icky when they do it. But I came about doing that after getting a master's degree in project management, in leadership and management, and we did a lot of projects. And I was an executive at the city of Portland, Oregon, which is where I live on the West Coast in the US. And in the process of getting that master's degree, I learned these 4 questions that translate into just about any scenario. But I would always ask them before I was asked to do the unthinkable, undo a disaster or make something happen that maybe had stalled out over and over again. And then when I started as an entrepreneur, I realized these questions translate into just about any situation. And so even now with helping people with their marketing, and sometimes people are pretty fearful about getting out and sharing about themselves and sharing their offers. I feel like even with that, it will help an entrepreneur who's like, oh, I'm going to do that thing. And has nothing to do with what their mission is. And so I'm pretty excited to talk about that, because I feel like if everybody knew about these questions, then we could all kind of stay on our missions a little bit more. But it doesn't mean we won't tell a lot of dad jokes and have fun. That's 2 separate things as far as I'm concerned.
They should be joined. Absolutely.
Okay, can I ask a quick question, because we're here to ask questions? How come this is just a dad joke thing? How come moms are not allowed to make ridiculous
Mom
mom
jokes?
jokes?
Mom can make dad jokes.
Why can't they be mom jokes?
Why aren't they mom jokes? That's a really great point.
I mean, there's no real answer to the question, but I figured since we're here to ask questions, I might as well put it out there because I was thinking it.
There you go.
So
So
what
Jen,
are
I
these?
want to start with this. What did you mean when you said walking into disaster is fun? Other than this show, of course. This show is lots of fun, but what do you mean by that?
I mean, a serial problem solver. That's what I really like to do. So it gives me something to do. It gives me something to chew on and think about and help people. I was in the Peace Corps and I loved solving problems when I lived in Kazakhstan for 2 years. It's just like what I do. And it's like my purpose, I guess, is coming in and helping people solve what their biggest issues are. I think a lot of people are afraid to do that, but I feel like it's just like, oh yeah, let's go, let's do it, and I get pretty excited about it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Alex, you had a
So
question.
should we mention? Well, I did. I still do actually, but I was going to say. I think Andrew has been commenting, but it's not been coming through, and I had the same problem with Andrew on Thursday.
Sorry, Jen. So where is? I'm assuming Jackie Abbott is commenting on your profile, Alex.
She is, but Andrew is commenting on Adam's.
Right, but if Jackie is commenting on yours, if Andrew went to Alex Abbott's LinkedIn post and put a comment in, it'd be useful to test, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Sorry, Jen. I'm jumped in and fixed things. Yeah. I know you like to.
It's all about the audience, Jen.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, good idea, Tim. So Andrew, if you heard that, hop over.
If anybody's commenting and for some reason or other your comment's not coming through, try going to Alex's LinkedIn profile and put some comments in there, see if that works, and we'll give it 10-15 minutes. Sorry, Jen.
Yeah.
No, it's okay. Cool. Questions are important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question, you may not want to answer this, Jen. You may want to keep us all on tenterhooks for the entire, 45 minutes. What are these 4 questions?
That's what I was going to ask.
I mean, do you want them all at once?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So what happens a lot of times, and tell me if you can relate to it or not, is, I'm gonna do this thing, and we go right to the how. Like you kind of skip over like whether or not it's a good idea or not. So we have 3 questions before we decide how we're going to get there. So the first question is, what are we trying to accomplish and why? So what that does is it gives us a chance to say, okay, well, for example, ChatGPT, that sounds really interesting. What are we trying to do with it and why is it important to our organization? If you do certain things, it might not make any sense at all. If you do other things, you're like, oh, okay, well, it'll help us do XYZ faster. It'll help us further our mission, right? But that question, if you pause on it, you can actually say, okay, maybe this is going to take us way off of our mission and just be a distraction, right? So it keeps you from like starting to do something that's going to drift you away. The second one is, how will we measure success? So how do we know when we get there? And then that tells us when we've achieved what we want to do. But it also tells us, when we need to readjust what our goals are and maybe think again about what it is that we're trying to do. The third thing is, what other conditions must exist? This is the one where people get kind of tight when I talk to people about it. And what that really means is, we don't all just like ride in on a rainbow on the back of a unicorn. Other things have to be happening, that are going to either be, this is where our SWOT analysis comes in. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is where we're like, okay, well, I'm going to get the support of these folks, but maybe these people aren't going to be as supportive. This is how much it's going to cost. Holy cannoli, I can't afford to do this, or if everything goes great, here's what's going to have to happen. When you do that, when you do your catastrophizing around like all the bad things that could happen, you're actually preparing for when it happens. And then when it does, you can navigate it a little bit better. Just as helpful preparation. And then after that, we get into, so you've done your budget, you've done, what you're trying to accomplish and why, when you're going to be successful, that it's not all puppies and unicorns, then you can think about how you're going to get there. And then you start planning it out and assigning tasks to people and deadlines and all of that kind of thing. So those are the four questions. Now, are there other questions you could ask? Sure. They all kind of fall though within those four questions. So this is a framework that's been used overseas in like development projects. This is something that's used with nonprofits. This is used with the public sector, the private sector, with entrepreneurs. They're pretty universal, I think, right? I mean, these all make sense, and yet we skip them and decide I'm doing a thing. Let's do it. So when I say
That sounds like
go,
me.
I know,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying I don't do it too, because we all get excited and we just start going. But a lot of times when I would go into a disaster, especially at like scale, like really big time, we'd have to back up, kind of go through this stuff, and then that would help us triage kind of what had been happening and how to get back on track too. So it helps at the beginning, especially. But then if things go wrong, you can readjust there.
So
Do you know,
check.
Jen? Do you know Rob is always asking the question, "What are we trying to accomplish?" He always does that. Always keeps us on track.
Good job, Rob.
Yeah.
Thank you.
High five, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And it sounds very similar to what you were talking about. But I heard you use the word drift, and it got me thinking, even if I start with these 4 questions and then proceed, most people skip them altogether.
Yep.
If they ask them at the beginning as though it's one and done. When do you know you're drifting? And when do you go back to these questions?
Ideally, that's part of. So when I work with these and I'm setting up a project, I have a matrix that I put all of the answers in, and it's a guidepost for keeping things in check. But you're right. If you just make a list, I'm going to do all of these things. We all know what happens. We get busy, we forget, we start adding more things, shiny objects, and yeah, exactly. Squirrel. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I'm back. Don't worry about it. So you do have to have guideposts. That's why you want to say, how will we measure success? And then you check in on those milestones and you look at it and you make sure that you're still there. One of the things, I was on a podcast once to talk about like a really uncomfortable moment. I was being interviewed by a woman who I think was like a psychologist. And she's like, I think I'm thinking about starting a pool company. And I was like, how's that part of your mission? And like the question was out before I could even like stop myself, and she just was kind of like, I felt like the interview was over at that moment because I actually questioned this decision. But it's kind of like when other people can see it, sometimes they can see like how far something has moved. But when we do it, it seems so slow. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I just kind of had this like idea. What am I doing? And you're like, it's like, you're in like another town, and it's like they say like a barge leaves New York 1 degree off, and it's the difference between like London and Africa. It's a big difference when you start drifting off course.
All I could vision was the Talking Heads song. My God, how did I get here? So how do you then enlist outside help? How do you enlist others to keep you on track if you're too close to the situation to see it clearly?
I mean, how you do it depends on the size and structure of the organization. Every good initiative has some sort of champion. So if we're talking about like a larger organization, you have to rely on people within the organization to kind of help with that. And hopefully you have some really big goals. If we're talking about like a small business or medium-sized business, even, then it really still falls on the leadership to really be, somebody has to be in charge of like, where are we at with this? And is it going the way that we want to? If it's a micro business, then you need to have some accountability partners or somebody who's like, a coach, somebody who is helping you with these things, because otherwise you can just, you're never going to get where you really want to be. And that's one of the things that is is so challenging. That's why a lot of businesses fail, is they're not holding themselves accountable for the goals that they set, or they set goals that are like so big that they can't possibly achieve them. And that's part of why when you start looking at like, how are we going to measure success, you have to think about like, well, what is it along the way that's going to keep me engaged? Also, you can't just set these like totally outlandish goals, because you get bored after a while.
Yeah, I can't help but get this word that you used out of my head, Jen, earlier. Catastrophizing.
Yeah.
I didn't even
I wrote it down too. One. Not sure it's actually a word, but I like it.
Yeah, I had to look it up. It's really a word. When you think someone or a situation is way worse than what the reality actually is. Sounds like one of my forecasting calls with my manager when I was back in corporate.
Well, this is interesting because I can't get a word that you said earlier out of my mind either, which is tenterhooks.
Oh.
That is not something that I have ever said before. I was like, what is that? And then I was like, oh, he said something else. Okay, I'm gonna come back.
I'm back.
Well,
but yeah, catastrophizing is what?
The penny dropped.
The penny dropped. It did. And then it rolled around. Oh, sorry, I would come back. So I would say that, yeah, catastrophizing is a thing, and people get scared about it, right? Like, but we do it all the time. Like, oh, my husband's not home back. I wonder what happened. Is there a ghost? What happened? Where'd he go? Did he have a flat tire? Did he run out of gas? Like, did he get into a car accident? Like, we do that. Like, well, some people do. Maybe y'all don't. But like, some people do that. But when it comes to like a project or something that we really want to have happen, people don't tend to do that. They don't tend to go down the rabbit holes of like, well, what if nobody wants my product? Like, what if? You know, you got to play the what if game a little bit so that you're prepared, you know. And everybody wants to think that nothing wrong could possibly happen, but if you don't think about that, if you don't catastrophize a little bit and make everything worse than it is, then when like things go sideways, you're like, oh, I never thought of that. Now how are we going to get out of here, you know? And we had, you know, I worked on a large project at one point, and we kept telling our tech partner, like, you know, look, have you prepared for this? Have you done a load test? Do we know that like the servers are going to work? Do we know that the website isn't going to melt down? And like, we melted down like everything, and we kind of had to like backtrack, and we had like 300,000 people affected, you know. And so it's a really like, sometimes these catastrophes can be really big. And even though we had thought about like that possibility, nothing can prepare you for having to go back and like triage all of that. But at least you know that you tried and you gave things some thought. That was probably the worst case scenario when everything went wrong. There are other times when little things go wrong and you're more able to navigate it because you've had that time where you're just like, ugh, what if things don't go the way I want them to? Who am I going to call? What are the next steps? Like, who's on my side? Who are my advocates? Like, and that's what really can help you navigate trouble, is by having that time where you're just, like I said, catastrophizing. You're just like, holy cow, what, you know, what's the worst that could happen? Because also a lot of times people don't think about that, and then they realize the worst that could happen isn't nearly as bad as what they thought. And sometimes it can really ignite you to take action as well.
But do you ever have to sort of highlight how bad it could be if they didn't, you know, address the thing that's right in front of them?
Yeah, but sometimes
like
people...
how bad your sales funnel might look if you don't address your funnel issue.
Yeah, but you know as well as I do that not everybody wants to address that.
See, and this is the question that I have, right? Because like, how important is self-awareness in like even being able to answer those questions responsibly? Because I've been part of organizations where if you ask the question, and I've always been a question asker, some people like it about me,
Yep.
Some people don't like it about me. When you're like asking these types of questions, what are you trying to accomplish to kind of prove a point that this isn't in alignment with our mission? But people have their own ideas, decision makers, CEOs have their own ideas, and like, this is aligned, but there's like a bunch of people on the team who are like, but is it? And then it's my job to just like get it done. And I've been in this role before where I'm just like, but I don't get it, right? Like, I don't see how this is aligned. I don't see how it makes sense. And now I'm supposed to use my time away from projects that I do think make sense to get this done. So like, what's the role of self-awareness? What's the role of like being able to feel like as an individual, we can allow these questions and really ask ourselves if we're being honest?
Yeah, so this is interesting because I've been that person, Tracy, where I'm like, we were taking a trip to Crazy Town and I'm supposed to lead the band. Like, like I don't even know what I'm doing here, and a lot of times I would ask these questions myself and I would write it all out, and I would be like, okay, this is what they say we're trying to do and why, like, and even though it doesn't maybe make sense to me, I've been tasked with this. So who am I going to call? How am I going to do it? And that was really the key to my being a turnaround artist, was kind of like, okay, well, this is what we're going to do, whether I agree with it or not. I better answer these questions to cover myself and cover the project. And then it made it easier for me to navigate it. Even if I thought it was, dumb or didn't make sense or whatever, and part of it too is like, well, if somebody is leading the charge, then you better get the answers from them, even if they don't have the self-awareness to realize that, I mean, this just doesn't sound like a good idea. You have to get some information from them about why they think it is. And sometimes all you get is "'cause I said," like, and it's not the best answer.
Well, and this is the thing I'm wondering, because I've just seen, like, I've been, especially from the marketing perspective, right? So I work in marketing. There's a lot of people who are like, okay, we're going to do this. This is our new thing we're going to do. And we just need a marketing program for it, right? But like, it doesn't actually answer any of these questions.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, it doesn't match with our business. Why? We don't have what I would consider a good definition of success, right? Like, we're going to have this many people look at it on our website. And I'm like, well, it really doesn't mean very much if nobody buys it.
Yeah, the way I described this a few days ago, if you've ever seen the TV show Seinfeld, it's like you go into some projects and people are like, oh, yada, 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 we're going to make $1 million. And the truth is that every yada is really important. and that's the thing. People just kind of want to skip to the end. And that's true. I mean, the example you gave is spot on. Like, it's how do you like that? I just used like a little European spot on. How do you like that? So but it's spot on, because it's like most people are like, I want to do a thing. I'm going to buy the software and it's going to fix everything that is wrong. And we see this all the time in marketing, because we're constantly bombarded with like, this marketing solution will help you increase sales. This marketing solution is going to streamline sales or social media or whatever it is that is, our greatest marketing ill, when really it comes down to business process. And if that makes sense and it aligns with whatever software it is, yes, it might help you. But there still has to be something more behind it. But sometimes people don't want to hear that. And we can influence as consultants. And sometimes our customers want to do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just a big fan of telling my clients that it's stupid. And if they don't like that, then they don't choose me. But like,
you mean your former clients?
That's my. But this is the thing I think is always interesting about it, right? This is why I ask the question: like, are there people who are ready to hear this and people who are not ready to hear this, right?
Absolutely.
Because I do think there are people, there are leaders, there are decision makers who are like, well, we've been doing this for X amount of years, and then I come in and I'm like, and this is why that doesn't work. So you can keep doing that, but like, it's not aligned with your mission. It doesn't have good success measures. Like it doesn't connect to sales, right? From a marketing perspective, like these are the reasons why it doesn't work. So you can keep doing that, but if you want to keep doing that, then don't hire me, because it's going to be a terrible plan. And I'm just going to keep telling you not to keep doing that. And there are people who are ready to like question, like, okay, these are decisions I've made in the past. Maybe they worked in the past. They're not working now though. And so like, let's explore. And I do think that I feel like Adam and I get into these conversations all the time about mindset and things like that, because there really is, I think, a specific mindset that people need to be in order to ask themselves these hard questions, and not to say like, oh, well, okay, we didn't ask ourselves that question, or we made this decision and it's really not in line with our mission. So is there a way to like relook at that? Can it be aligned with our mission? Maybe it can if we're asking the right question. But I think this ability to like be questioned is something that I think it's new, right? I think a lot of times leaders have gotten to the place where they are and they're like, well, now this means I don't get questioned, right? I have all the answers and I'm going to make the decisions and we're going to go do things. And if it didn't work, it's not my fault. It's your fault because you implemented it wrong. But I think we're coming into an age now where like we really need to be able to sit there and have someone, a consultant, a coach, a friend, right? An employee, could it be, that asks us that question and we can be like, oh, you have a point. Like when my 5-year-old asks me why we have to do things. And I'm like, I don't know why. I don't have a good reason.
Is that sometimes, Tracy, to do with the fact it's like a habit or your business worldview?
Right. Yeah.
That this is good and this is bad. And it will always be like that.
Right. Like I should know the answer. And if I don't know the answer as a leader, then I'm bad or incapable or something. But that's like
or what we'll do is we're going to do the same thing that we've done for the last 20 years because it worked for me 20 years ago. But that's
and watch our business slowly go out of business.
But that's my belief system. And I know for a fact that Adam is talking to an organization and they've said for the last 18 months, next quarter is going to be better.
I've got one of those.
But there's also the sunk cost fallacy, isn't there?
Yes.
We've put so much into this, so much effort, so much time, so much money into this, that actually we can't get off this conveyor belt now. Even though we're on the down escalator, we've invested too much to be able to get off. And it's all to do with loss of faith and all of those kind of. But also, it is that mindset. It's that inability to look at it and go, you know what, this isn't working. We need to do something else. We don't know what it is we need to do, but what we do know is that this thing is not working. So if we do nothing, we're no worse off. Let's try something different. It may not work, but it may work. At least we're putting the chips on a number on the roulette wheel that maybe will deliver a win. And I think that's a big problem, isn't it? That businesses are so invested in, and Eugen said about marketing, sending loads of emails, buying this tech, which they hope is going to sort the problem out. So in my experience, organizations buy a piece of tech, they sometimes implement it quite well, and it doesn't do what they think it's going to do. So, if you get this email marketing software, what it'll do is it'll deliver a constant stream of interested customers. And then it doesn't. And then the answer is to buy another piece of software that plugs into that gives you access to a whole new database of email.
And a constant stream of leads.
Yeah, which then will fix this. So then you start to use that and it doesn't work. And then you go, okay, well, what we actually need now is we need a better data analytics tool so we can understand which bits of this are okay and which bits where it's falling down. So you implement that and then you see that data and you go, okay, so we need to change more. And then you change it and it still isn't working. And actually now you've subscribed to 3 bits of software and you've got to buy the 4th and the 5th and the 6th. And it becomes so automated, it misses out on the very point of what you were trying to do, which was to have conversations with people in order that you could sell them something.
You've just described the problem with the MarTech industry.
The MarTech 5,000 or 6,000 or 10,000.
15,000.
10,001.
Still these companies pop up. And the reason they pop up is, of course, because everybody wants an easy button.
Mm.
Nobody wants to actually do any more work, do they? So actually, if you do this, it takes all of this work away from you.
Yeah.
So, Jen, I wanted to get back to something you were saying. You were talking about delivering bad news. Not even delivering bad news. You were questioning the decision maker. In the case of the person wanting to go into the pool industry. That was just an off the cuff. But no doubt you've encountered similar situations like that on a much grander scale.
Yeah.
When they're not happy with your answer, how do you navigate that? It's got to be more than just go along to get along.
It depends on the leader. So sometimes, sometimes you do your best to influence a situation. This is a case where when you're working with a leader, you're not the boss. You're maybe the consultant, you're the employee, you're whatever your role is. You're answering to somebody else that you disagree with fundamentally about something. So then it becomes a case of influence and helping guide somebody so that they're not buying that sixth piece of software, so they're not adding things. And I've been in situations where it is like, we've done this for 20 years. Like, this is how we do things. And I'm the person who's like, okay, what if we tried this? And sometimes it's about these incremental changes that start to like change things a little bit, where you can give yourself some quick wins and successes that then people are like, oh, and you can get some of that openness. But sometimes it's just a closed door, and you have to either move on and say, this isn't the right client for me, this isn't the right project for me, or you have to find other ways that you can make inroads into a project or a situation to make it better. I was reading.
Pointing and laughing a good way of doing that?
I mean, if you want to get fired or something, yeah.
I think that also depends on the leader. There might be a leader who's like totally into that.
Exactly. Yeah, I was reading this week about self-checkout in grocery stores and how it's not a success. Like, almost resoundingly, it has not done what grocery stores have wanted, but it costs them so much money to do it that they're all just like, well, we're stuck with this. We're not going to hire more people, and we're just going to keep rolling with it. And it's like, yeah, okay, and it's that everybody else is doing it, so I guess they're all in it together. But this happens again and again in organizations. I mean, I think we've probably all worked with somebody who is no longer in business because they kept throwing software at problems, and it can run you out of business because it's so expensive.
So you're at the kind of leadership board level, and are you typically working with the individual leader that's brought you in, or are you working with multiple leaders? And how do you help them reach consensus if you're working with multiple leaders within a business?
I mean, no matter what, as a consultant, hopefully you can identify at some point who your champion is, who it is that really wants you there, and who it is that is really going to be influencing the project or at least supporting you. And that's how you want to navigate it. So it might be the leader, the CEO, and a lot of times I do work with the business owner, but it might not be. And then it becomes like, how do you have an advocate? I mean, I think we all know like how important advocacy is, even within our own businesses, within the marketing context. That's how we all survive. We want people to be cheering us on and talking about how great we are and being our biggest advocates. It's the same thing when you're working on a project or when you're in a client engagement. Sometimes there's dynamics that you're walking into in politics that have gone on for years. And like, the best thing that you can do is find that person who is going to really help you be successful. And sometimes if you can't find that, you might realize that it's not the project is really a no-go. You have times where you're like, is this a go or a no-go? And you're like, this isn't going to happen. And then you make your own choices about how you're going to navigate that.
I think that's an interesting point, because I was actually part of a project like that once, and I was project managing it. And it was this project that had been like going on for 2 years, but the company wasn't resourcing it. And so there was like one guy working on it and he was super stoked about it, but the project wasn't going anywhere. So he was super frustrated. And I said to the CEO, I'm like, are you gonna make this a priority? Because it just seems unfair to keep staffing this and keep this person believing that this is going to be the next great iteration of this business. But we've got a team of 25 and you've resourced it with one for 3 years. Like, is it going to be a thing? And now you're paying me to project manage a project that's not going anywhere. So this could go somewhere, but we have to decide to like take it, like go, no go for launch,
That's like
right?
leadership.
Are we going to launch this or not?
Isn't that crazy?
And she decided not to. And I don't know that it was a good or bad decision, right? Like, it was not a direction the company ended up going. The company's still in business, right? They're doing something different. So I think they're fine. But I do think there are things where we're like, well, this is a good idea. We'll throw a little bit of resource at it. But then we also forget, like, how do the resources feel doing this thing that they think is the next big thing, but continues not to get funding and staffing. So I think it is important sometimes to bring that up and say, like, hey, can we make a go, no go for launch decision?
I mean, Tracy, I think we could be friends.
Yeah.
a lot of times it's about asking those hard questions, right? You have to like walk into the fire. And I think that that's part of what I like about these disasters or stalled projects. Like, the other thing, to Tracy's point, is you resource it, you under resource it, then it's like, forget it, and then sometimes where I come in is like 5 years later, they're like dusting it off and they're like, oh, so we've decided we want to do that. And then it's like, you have to look at like all the pieces that are left and decide again, no go or no go, is this really where we're gonna head? And that's
I've seen
a
that
hard
before
thing
too, where people like bring back a project and then, but it's in like the same capacity that they tried it the first time. And you're like, there was something about this that didn't work the first time. Do we want to explore why it didn't work the first time so we don't just duplicate our efforts, do it the same way again? And then 5 years from now, we're bringing it back out of retirement because it's a good idea. And it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. But like, there was something that didn't work the first time. So let's talk about it before we just bring it back.
Isn't that like the hairdresser not fixing the other hairdresser's haircut? I mean,
I feel like the hairdressers have a weird relationship with their own hair. I feel like that's like their business, and they don't want to let.
My wife was a hairdresser, and her father said to her once, "This is how I."
Are you going on your holidays?
What's that?
Where are you going on your holidays?
That's what hairdressers normally say, isn't it?
That's what hairdressers always say.
No. Her father said to
Jokes.
her, "Here's how I pick out the hairdresser. I walk into the salon and I find the person with the worst haircut. Because it's obvious she didn't cut her own hair. I won't be sitting in the seat of the worst hairdresser." Oh, pretty good. Yeah.
Andrew's comments come through.
Andrew's made it.
So Jen, we always wave at Andrew and he always waves back.
Yeah, check it out. What's a hairdresser? That's a burning question for some of us.
Yeah. Well, what's a hairdresser in America? Is it a stylist? Is it?
Sure.
Is it different?
Hairdresser.
They do like haircuts and hairstyles and hair color.
Style. There's a stylist. Yeah.
But yeah, Adam and Tim probably wouldn't know much about that.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
It sounds like Andrew's confused too. So,
Well, his profile picture resembles some of ours.
Yeah.
We have a profile of people we attract in the show. Mostly bald. It's all good.
And wearing glasses. See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not even wearing glasses. I'm not sure how I got allowed on the stage today.
We need some diversity, Jen. So,
okay, Jen, I have a question about like the actual topic of the day.
Oh, glasses?
No, not about glasses.
Oh, okay.
So you used a phrase earlier. You said turnaround artist, and you used it about yourself. And I was thinking, like, is there a way that individuals at an organization or leaders in an organization could like pivot their thinking to start believe that they too are turnaround artists, or
That's a
some
good
things they
question,
might
actually,
need to
Tracy.
know to
That's
become
good.
a turnaround artist themselves, besides these 4 questions, which they already know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I do think that it is a mindset or a point of view that you have to adopt, which is if we have an idea or a concept, something that we really want that's critical to the organization, then why can't we bring it back? Why can't we light it up, and do it, and that's a thing, some people, not all people, but some people have like a closed mindset and they're just like, well, it didn't work. Wah, wah. Never doing that again, and that's a thing, where I think a lot of times we have to really realize that the world is changing so rapidly. Why can't you revisit some things? And why can't you just approach it from a slightly different angle, and give it another go?
I think it's a certain personality type, though, isn't it? Like the go-getter with energy, might be the fixer or the turnaround person versus, someone else who's far more reserved.
I mean, I think you have to go into things with kind of almost like a fun or childlike look at things, right? You have to be kind of like, I don't know, it could work. Let's look at it, and you have to like have kind of a different energy about it, because otherwise, if you're just like, oh, yeah, we did that, it didn't work before, like, and you just look at, then how is that going to be exciting to anybody? How is that going to like bring it back? You do have to have a different mindset or a different outlook that's even open to revisiting things that maybe you tried before, because you have to realize that like business moves so fast. Like you were not in the same place 20 years ago when you did that thing that you are now. Like, and sometimes people don't have that lens, and that's maybe why you bring somebody else in, or it could be why, you're not moving forward in ways that you would like.
Yeah,
You have to be
earlier in the
comfortable
call,
with failure, right?
you
You have to be comfortable with failure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So along those lines, how do failures shape the future trajectory of projects, and why is discussing them so vital?
I mean, isn't failure part of success? It's just that like it's that thing we don't like to talk about.
yeah.
We don't like to talk about how many times we had to trip before we learned to walk, or all of the things that have ever happened. And I think that that's a real shame. I think that there's a lot that we can learn through failure. And those are the conversations that a lot of people don't want to have, and yet that's where the gold is. I think that's where you can really uncover and unpack some things that are really game changers.
Well, and I think a lot of times people experience failure as like a final state, right? Like
Right.
we did this and it failed and now it's done, right? It's a failure. And you're like, well, like, okay, so we did this, we had a how, we thought it was going to work, it didn't deliver what we thought it was going to deliver. Where we're going is still meaningful. So this isn't like an end state, this is a middle state, and we haven't got there yet. So yes, let's be honest with each other about what didn't work or what's not working, but that doesn't mean we're done. We have
Right.
space to go, space to explore, space to evolve. And that's why I don't like the word failure, because it feels so final. And you're like, nothing is final until we're dead. From a business perspective as well. If you still have one client, you still have things you can do to make this work. But are you being open-minded enough to say like, okay, well, all of the things we've historically done haven't worked. Okay, well, there's lots of other things you can try. So it's cool to come to conversations like this and just have conversations with consultants and other people in your industry or other people in different industries. We're like, well, what have you done? I've seen like amazing things implemented in software the idea came from like food delivery. right? Or grocery. And you're like, oh, yeah, could I as a software company learn something about what they experienced in self-checkout, right? Like, yeah, you can, right? And there's like so much space for ideation and trying things. And like, I just think that too often we're like so concerned about failure, and maybe we like catastrophize to the point where we're like, well, we know this is going to be a failure, so we're not even going to bother, right? But like, my favorite question is, how can we, right? Like, if this is where we want to go and this is where we are today, how can we achieve these things? People might say like, I can't have this and this, right? In politics, my province likes to try to convince me that I can't have oil and gas and education. And I choose to believe that that's not true, right? How can we? How can we have both of these things, right? And how can we, okay, we thought that was a way we could, didn't work, right? How else can we? There's never just like one way. I think there's so much more we can do when we experience a failure.
I want to bring Andrew's comments on screen.
Andrew they're great.
Says, if it failed, did you understand the task? Did you follow the steps correctly? Was the goals too high? When do you ask those questions? Is it only after the fact, or do you even ask those after the fact?
No, those are ongoing. See, that's the key. Like, you can't just answer questions once. You have to realize, and you have to realize too, that there's like, to Tracy's point, there's like 1,000 ways to do something, and there's not just one right way. There's maybe hundreds of right ways to do it, and you haven't investigated them yet.
I did wonder about that, Jen, because when you started saying, well, it's just these 4 questions, I was thinking, how does Jen make a living if she just asks 4 questions?
And you've told us what those questions are.
Yeah. The problem is, Alex, people don't want to answer those questions. They need Jen to help them answer the questions.
The devil's in the details.
Asking the questions is what she's saying. You just don't ask them once.
Yeah, you keep asking, and you do. I mean, I think what Andrew's saying is definitely a key. Are you documenting things so that people understand what they're supposed to do? Like, the questions are very high level, but the devil's in the details. And like, are you following it? Like, do we have milestones set up so that we know if we need to readjust? Is it going according to plan, or have we already just started off-roading and doing something different? And do we need to bring things back? The other thing that Andrew said was, you have to accept that sometimes things aren't going to work, and it will help you improve it, and I think that that's part of it too, is like, when things go wrong, that's a good part of like your continuous improvement program. Like, as we all work in marketing, so it's like, people don't want to ask for customer feedback, even though that's how you can be better at marketing and better at your business, and make things better. You want to get the feedback from people because it's going to tell you not only what is working, but what isn't working, and that's how you improve. But a lot of people don't want to have that conversation around what's not working, like getting back to self-checkout. If there's one lesson that we can all glean from self-checkout, it's like and it's one of the things that I've said 100 times, if I said it once, is like, you automate so you can be more human in your business. The problem with self-checkout is you can't find a human anywhere. They've automated it, but it's not made it better for the customer experience, and so you have to sometimes look at these things from all the different angles, because maybe it's better for your business, but not for your customers. And then is it really better for your business?
Good point.
We have this error message in one of our supermarkets, Jen, where it goes, unexpected item in the bagging area.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Do you get that in the States? It's so much that if I make a mistake, I actually say unexpected item in the bagging area. It's like a...
It's like a piece of lint fell on the bagging area. I can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Or it also does that.
Look, I can't check out now. And there's a big line, as you would say, not a queue, as we'd say queue. And there's a big line behind you.
Yeah.
And you get the same message when you put, I don't like in North America, or at least in Canada, it's all like bring your own bags now. So you
Yes.
like put
Sure.
your own bag in the thing and it's like unexpected item in the bag. Yes, it's my
Yes.
bag that you forced me to bring because you don't have bags for me.
Therefore, you should have expected it.
Yes,
Right.
it should not be unexpected. Or there should be a button that's like, is this your own bag? Yes, it is.
Yes.
I mean, I personally love to scan my own stuff. But I love that part of the self-checkout process. But yeah,
do too.
I don't think anybody gets through a checkout without some issue. And then, although I will tell you, at my local Walmart, there's like 3 attendants now for self-checkout. And they just stand there and wait for people to have a problem. And then scan their card and key in their code and fix it. Self-checkout.
But you didn't know we were talking about self-checkout today, huh?
Yeah. So we have this. We have a number of supermarkets now here in the UK where they have someone on the door that checks the fact that you've got a receipt. Because the big issue with self-checkout is the amount of shrinkage, which we call it shrinkage in retail, isn't stealing stuff, has gone up.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. There have been all of these like shoplifting rings here in the States.
Yeah. And here, it's TikTok videos about how you can go in and steal stuff. And there's Facebook groups about we're not going to this particular supermarket because if they tell us that we're going to scan our stuff and then they're going to stand there and check us that we've scanned it, we're not going there anymore.
Yeah, somebody tried to break into our car, and then we found out that there's a TikTok about the Kia boys, and it's all about how to break into our car. And I was like, of course there is. Like,
Wow.
Use your powers for good, TikTok. Come on now.
Use your powers for good, everyone. Not
There
just
you
TikTok.
Did you have a question, Rob?
I just wanted to say, any final thoughts as we're coming to the top of the hour and wrapping it up?
I mean, I had a really good time. I hope everybody got something from this.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that, sure, you can oversimplify like the 4 questions. These are just to get you started, and then you have to go back and look at them again. And so I'm hopeful that at least we're like helping people ask some questions so that they can maybe get out of that place of like, that it's like a yes, no, let me drop another thought, black and white thinking, which is like, it's either this or this. But the answer is there are a lot of other options.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
And Jen, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, so my business is called Women Conquer Business, and that's at womenconquerbiz.com. And then I'm most active on LinkedIn. So Jen McFarland on LinkedIn.
Fantastic.
Excellent.
Cool.
This has been the Digital Download, the longest running weekly business talk show on LinkedIn Live. Nailed it. If you have something to say, if you
no, you haven't nailed it because you didn't say syndicated around the world.
Oh man,
Globally.
It's a day.
What were
It's a
we
day
saying
for the digital
about making
download, folks.
mistakes?
You need to update your notes, Rob.
Yeah, I really do. If you have something to say, if you would like to be on a guest on our show, we would love to hear from you. Digitaldownload.live, be our guest, or you can follow the QR code on screen here. We're having a lot of fun with that today. That's awesome. To our guest, Jen McFarland, thank you very much for being here. To the panelists, again, thank you for another great episode. To the audience members, thank you again for all of your great questions, your participation.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Oh, happy Friday. We will see you again next week. Thank you very much for